It is finally time to do a review on another game, and what better game to do it on than the brand new, well, I say brand new, maybe like 3-week old Resident Evil 9 or Resident Evil Requiem. It's time to do a review on this game. We're going to go over multiple things, everything that makes a game complete. We're going to go after gameplay, story, atmosphere, what makes it complete, how it compares to other games, all the shit shebang. So if you enjoy, make sure you subscribe and let's jump into it. Starting off with the gameplay. This part will have no spoilers. I will let you know when we dive into the story aspect of this review. I will probably give a spoiler alert ahead of time. But yeah, starting off with the gameplay. The first takeaway I really got away from the gameplay of this game is it's a combination of past Resident Evil games, and I'll tell you which games. It is a combination of RE7 and RE4 put into one. Both those gameplays put into one with slight improvements and slight tweaks to overall improve, the gameplay. As when you play as Grace, you mainly are playing the RE7 gameplay. When you're playing as Leon, you're playing the RE4 gameplay. And the game actually does let you sort of change your camera angle or your perspective when you play as both characters. I just did it how it was intended, with Grace in first person, Leon in third person, and I recommend you do the same when you play it, as that is how it's intended to be played. As when you are playing through Grace's part, you want to be fully immersed in the environment, as it will get pretty fucking scary. I thought I could be able to, deal with this game. I've played past, I've played RE7, haven't played RE8 yet, but I do intend in hopefully getting around to that. The gameplay has a lot of very intense moments with Grace, especially the fucking dude, not even the dude, the girl, I should say. That giant piece of shit is so fucking scary. No. The first time and the second time, and I think there's a third time you encounter this being, and it is just a no thank you from me. When I replayed the game, I still don't even want to do it. I don't know what it is. It's the bloody clanking. It's that clanking noise that she has. Like when she's walking around and you hear... You probably can't even hear that, but you hear that clanking in the distance and you just know that fucking girl is hunting you down. But enough about the girl. The gameplay, apart from that with Grace, includes a lot of being smart with your resources, like previous Resident Evil games, but I'd say even more cautious than this one, as there's a lot of enemies and you're not going to be able to kill all of them, that's for sure, in the first sort of section of the game, when you're in this big sort of area and you're going to get the free keys, classic Resident Evil style. You're going to get free keys to leave the area, and you won't have a lot of resources, and over time you'll start to accumulate stuff to be able to craft to make it easier for you. You can get knives, you can get obviously more bullets for your gun to hopefully fend off creatures and zombies. And that's another thing about Grace's part, which I really did enjoy, is that the zombies in this game actually have traits and characteristics that make them different. There are certain zombies that are sort of adapting the traits that they had before they were human, if that makes sense. So I'll give an example. There is a cleaning lady who is a zombie, and basically what she does is she'll clean things just randomly. So if there's if you just leave blood on the floor, she would just be cleaning that, and I think she'll be distracted, and you can use that to sort of navigate around the zombies. You can use it to distract them, as I said, and makes you think a lot harder about your decisions, as these zombies won't all just be the same zombies the entire game, and I thought that was a nice touch. Another part about Grace's part, which I really enjoyed, was the addition of the blood system, where you get a blood collector, where you're given a blood collector, and you have to collect blood so you can craft pretty much anything. Blood's just a common crafting ingredient for pretty much everything in the game, for Grace's part, and that makes you think a lot. It makes you think for a lot longer as well, and you can get blood from killing people. So sometimes you might have to kill people so you can have enough resources to be able to craft what you want. So yeah, it's all these little things makes the whole experience of the gameplay more immersive and more creative and innovative. Innovative, that's the word. Fucking hell, it is too early. Anyways, we'll talk about Leon's gameplay now, which is, it's awesome. It's RE4's gameplay, which is amazing. I've made a review on RE4 Remake, if you want to go check it out, in the card in the top right. But yeah, that gameplay is amazing. High stakes, high pace action is what I like to call it, as you'll just be fighting like 50 dudes sometimes in big rooms, lots of bullets, lots of ammo, lots of grenades, knives, you can parry, you just go balls to the walls, kill everything in sight. And some of the boss battles that you face with Leon are epic as well. You'll be facing, I don't want to give too much away. I might say what boss battles you face in the story. Yeah, is there really much? You can also pick up weapons in this game as well as Leon. You can pick up like spears and throw them. You can pick up hatchets. You can pick up a chainsaw, which is pretty damn cool. I think there's like 2 or 3 parts in the game where they'll have chainsaws and you got to kill them to get the chainsaw, and you can pick it up and use it. They can also pick up the chainsaw pretty quickly as well. It's pretty like insane how the chainsaw's on the ground and like some random zombies like, oh yep, I want to use this. I'll pick it up and they'll start trying to chain your ass. So you got to be quick about that. But yeah, that's pretty much the gameplay. Pretty neat stuff. Not much to complain about the gameplay. The only thing I'll say about the gameplay that I guess it's not really, it's more like the pace of the game story-wise, is that I feel like there's a lot of parts that just exist to get to the end, if that makes sense. Like the amount of times you got to get to a different area and you have to like get 3 things or get 4 things is insane. You got to do it leaving the first area, you got to get 3 things, and then you go into another area, you got to get 3 things again, and then when you go to Leon, you got to get to another area, you got to get 3 things again. I know it's sort of like a formula in Resident Evil sort of thing, like you got to get keys to open doors, like makes sense, but it just feels like, it feels more prevalent and more, present in this game than it did previous Resident Evil. I don't know, that was just my experience with that whole shebang. But yeah, moving on to the story. So the story, spoiler warning ahead, spoiler warning, blah 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 blah, spoiler warning is gone. I thought this game would be the final Resident Evil game. I don't know whether I saw it somewhere that this was going to be the final Resident Evil game, but turns out it's not. When I got to the end of this game, I was like, holy shit, this is the end, and it's not. And this is a great ending, but yeah, it turns out it's not the end. I do think it's the end for the character of Leon in, the franchise. Not sure about Grace, but I know it's probably the end of the character Leon, as he sort of takes his gloves off at the end to, I saw that as a representation of, him just putting up the boots and, settling down or something. That's what I thought that meant. But yeah, it's not the last Resident Evil, as there was, the army dudes pulled up at the end, and Chris Redfield, he wasn't there. I wish he was there. I said I had a message for you, and then they said something else, which I can't remember, which is gonna, which I thought would lead to more things in the future. So yeah, I don't think it's the last Resident Evil game, which I'm not complaining about, but I thought it would be, as there are a lot of returning characters in this game from the past. I won't lie, when I first saw Zeno here, I thought that was just straight out Wesker. I was like, oh my god, Wesker's here, as I think most people did as well, as he's literally Wesker, but turns out he's a clone of Wesker, and yeah, because Wesker died, but he's a clone, and he thinks he is Wesker, and he's pretty damn strong. But at the end, he's actually not the final boss battle, even though I thought he would. The final boss battle is Victor Gideon, which is the main antagonist of the story. He's pretty cool, lots of aura, I'd say. captures you a lot though. In this, I'm pretty sure there's like a sequence where he has Grace, captures Grace, and then Leon goes to save Grace, and then he captures Leon, which is I thought was pretty funny. But he's like a scientist dude who makes experiments, and he actually releases the outbreak when you get to the care center as Leon. And yeah, he's pretty messed up, but he basically just tries to capture Grace so he can release the mystery of the game, which is Elpis. You're wondering the whole game, what is this Elpis, and why do the bad guys want Elpis? And yeah, you don't really get the answer to that as you discover through the story, through like tapes. And is that the only reason you discover what Elpis is? I guess through that tape when you get to the lab. And yeah, this game does have a lab section at the end because it is Resident Evil. You get to the lab and you gotta face the fucking lickers. The lickers make a return at the end of this game. Yeah, is there anything else to say about the story? I will say one thing. When you get to the church with Grace and you cover with Leon, and then you get reunited, and Grace sorts her... I know, what's her name? Fucking Emily, the little child, like, presumably dies, and Leon shoots her. Grace just walks away in, like, she just walks away in sadness because she just watched her child die. Not her child, but a child she'd grown to care for gets shot. And she just walks away. Leon watches her walk, and then she gets captured again. She just walks into the enemy's hand, gets captured, and then Leon's like, alright, time to go save her. She needs help. And I'm just sitting there like, what do you mean? You were right there with her. She walked away, and now she's captured. Like, you were right there. Like, come on. I just thought that was like a little... They could have done that a little... They could have like done it so she was sad, and then the bad guys pulled up and like took her away or something. I think that would be a better thing than just having Grace walk away in sadness and get captured because of it. Like, that's what... That was just a little problem there. But yeah, apart from that, the story was pretty good. I like the mystery of what Elpis and all the returning characters. We had, like, obviously Leon, Sherry from RE2. The kid is all grown up now. Wesker. We also had Mr. X make a return, which was pretty damn cool. Also, another detail which I liked about the story is when you go back to Raccoon City as Leon, you obviously go back to the RPD, of course, because you go back to the RPD in every game, it feels like. Yeah, you go back to the RPD and you actually get, like, flashbacks and PTSD from 50-year-old Leon about all the events that happened, like, 30 years ago in Raccoon City, which is pretty cool and makes sense, traumatic experience, and Leon can't outrun the ghost of his past. So, yeah, well, that was nice. Moving on. So yeah, I'm going to give the the gameplay a 10 out of 10, and I'm going to give the story an 8 out of 10. And moving on, we're going to talk about battles now. I'm going to count the big the big fucking girl again. I'm going to count that as the boss battle for Grace. She can piss off. She is just terrifying. You'll encounter her a few times, and basically the whole gist of it is she's scared of the light, and when you're not in the light, she'll walk around and chase you. So, yeah, that's her whole shebang. And you ultimately kill her by opening the roof hatch, and it reveals her to the entire sun, and she just, disintegrates. So, yeah, that's cool. And then the next boss battle after that, you face as Leon. Spider, the giant spider, comes out of literally nowhere. And I'm just like, holy shit, there's a giant spider. You gotta kill the spider. It's got a bunch of spiderlings. Reminds me of Grounded. When I first saw this spider, I was like, am I playing Grounded or Resident Evil? I've faced a lot of spiders in my time. But yeah, the spider's pretty cool. Pretty nice boss battle. I don't think the boss battles are all that difficult, but I have not completed the game on Insanity yet, as I sort of got halfway, so I haven't reached the city area. I'm sort of halfway through the care center in the Insanity run. But the first time I played on standard, because you can't actually play it on harder difficulty. They sort of just make you play it on standard first. And through playing all the boss battles on standard, they weren't that difficult, I'd say. They're not as tough as some of the boss battles in RE2, I'd say. And then you verse Mr. X, I believe, after, yeah, Mr. X, you verse him. He's got pretty strong attacks, but once you learn how to deal with his attacks, he's not that big of a deal. He's not as strong as he was in RE2 when you have to verse him on that elevator and you have like no space to work with. So they made it a little bit more easier as you have like a few cars to navigate around. And you obviously have a lot better guns than you did in RE2. But yeah, what's the boss battle after that? Probably should have... Why am I not thinking? You verse... I think it's Victor Gideon on the highway, and then you verse Victor Gideon again in the final boss battle in the game. And that one's not too difficult as well. I will say the boss battles on the regular run aren't that much of a deal. If you're a sort of gamer who doesn't like a challenge and you like the story, I'd say the hardest part of the game is like the first area where you deal with Grace. And yeah, so like the first half of the story when you're in the care center with Grace and you don't got a lot of stuff to work with and you got to navigate around all these zombies with like nothing but a gun with like 4 bullets. So I'd say that's like the trickiest part. But I don't know, maybe I should come back after doing the Insanity run and then comment out how hard the boss battles are. My last point is, how does this compare to other Resident Evil games in the franchise? And I would say, after playing this game, if I had to put it on like a ranking thing, I would probably put this at about the 4th best or 3rd best Resident Evil game. I would say RE4 is the best, and then it goes maybe RE2, and then I'd sort of put RE2, RE9 sort of in that area, I would say, and maybe RE7 behind it. I would say that's how it ranks with other Resident Evil games. You know, it's got great gameplay, pretty decent, solid story, and it's got a lot of great characters, and Leon's great in the game. Again, he's got a lot of good one-liners, of course he does, it's Leon. And yeah, that's what I would say. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Let me know if you want to review other games. Goodbye.